Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been a couple weeks, but there's a good reason for that. I did put out multiple shows of the double swing in the week prior, and I felt like that was plenty enough content to do with, especially not needing an episode of a show on a Saturday and then a Sunday. That felt a bit ridiculous. I mean, who are we, Thorin? No, we can't be putting out that much content in such short periods of time. But instead, we've got Retake the Week, a bumper edition, making up for the entire RMR hangover, as it were, the EU RMR, of course, because Asia, NA hasn't happened yet. That's in the future. We don't do previews, only retakes. Joining me as always is Quacke. Mate, it's been a couple weeks. How have you enjoyed your Counter-Strike?
I've enjoyed it quite a bit. There's been some good games in the European RMR, of course. That's basically what we've been looking at. Mixed results for the Swedes. This is going to be the record major for the least Swedes ever at a major, but it's. I think we did all right anyway, so I'm like what we went in with. I think we still did all right, but let's just there's been some really good games. I was happy to see some surprising teams make it through, and that was fun to. It was fun to follow them.
Yeah, a bit of a weird one because on the double swing, the underdogs we picked for the RMRB especially, no one went through. No one, not a single one. I mean, I had both of mine made the last chance qualifier, which I'm going to just. Takes a small W. But aside from that, no, it was pretty horrendous for the underdog picks. A lot of unexpected happenings. But let's start with something that you've made a little note of for yourself. And you've just put it this way. I was wrong about Glaive. Now, please elaborate. I love listening to you confess how wrong you are.
I think I said even on this show at one point that I don't have a lot of faith in Glaive, and I think I said ahead of the RMR this was going to be the event where it was make or break for him, in my opinion. Because I've sort of said in the past few years that Glaive never did shit without Zonic, and could he even do anything without Zonic? And the answer is apparently yes, they can, because ENCE have actually made it through to the major after making Katowice playoffs. So I think these guys are pretty legit at this point. But yeah, I was wrong about. I'm pretty sure that at this point I was wrong about Glaive. He actually made one of the weirdest teams at this RMR actually work and move through it, because it's 4 Poles from a completely different core, and then there's a Polish coach, and then he is just kind of there as. I mean, yeah, it's strange, but somehow it's worked, and somehow they are in the major. So just a very quick note: I seem to I've been wrong about Glaive. I was pretty impressed by Glaive and ENCE in this RMR, just in general. I don't know if you caught their games, but
yeah, a fair bit of it. I watched a fair bit of ENCE just because they played a lot of the more fun matchups, I thought, especially at the end in the 6th to 8th sort of bracket match. I just want to put a damper on everything you just said, and I've had to do this a lot of the time when it comes to the majors and qualifying for them. They have now qualified for the major qualifier, guys. They haven't made it to the major in my book still. In terms of historical meaning, you haven't achieved something massive. You've made it past the open qualifier to the closed qualifier, really. This is what this is. It's chaotic. It's great, actually, that it pumps more money into lower-level teams. That's the good part of this system. But the bad part is it does kind of give this prestige to what is essentially making the major qualifier. Again,
but do you know, I actually have an answer. I actually have an answer for this here, all right? And this is something I only knew about recently. In terms of historical achievement, you have so many more teams competing now, because if you want to look at the historical achievement, the first CSGO major had 2 teams that qualified through the DreamHack BIOC tournament. It was just some guys who showed up with a computer.
Oh, yeah. We've come a long way since the earliest days, to be fair.
So I think it's fair to expand the major to 24 and say that 24 is the major, because that's just the level of competition now. If you want to look at historical achievement, ENCE have now achieved more than what the BIOC guys, I think it was Robin and Cadian who made it to DreamHack Winter 2013 through that open qualifier. They just showed up with a computer, so they have now achieved more than what they have, even if they are in the top 16 and these guys are only in the top 24. But that's something else. That's yeah.
I'm just going to politely disagree, but I do think it's great that the 24 team system gives low level orgs something to achieve that actually matters. Winning random CCT cups, whilst cool and does give you some prize money, doesn't really keep you going for 2 years like making the major does. We've seen how long guys like Guild Eagles were realistically able to just say no to mediocre offers because they had so much money coming in from stickers, despite never doing anything at the actual major itself. So that's pretty cool. That's great. But I still think, come on, guys, let's chill out a bit. Making the major here, it's a financial achievement. It's great for the CEO. The CFO also just licking his lips, thinking about all those buyouts he can waste that money on. But for now, it's not really a whole lot of anything. Let's move on to the next point, though, because there's some other big teams to talk about. Brolan, the way you've put this in the fucking show notes is outrageous. Because you cannot give Brolan credit for Donk having a weaker performance here, but I think the 2 points can be separately addressed. Great showing from Brolan, continued showing, I guess you could say, on Mouse, but also a bit of a weaker Donk. So, how much of these games could you watch? Because I'm going to be honest, this is one of the games I missed. I thought Spirit was such a lock, I thought, B-Stream, let's just go watch something else. I didn't realise they'd actually play like this, so what were your takeaways from that game? Aside from Brolan is God.
It was a good game. There's like Donk has obviously been a bit weaker in this RMR. People are saying that it's because he was washed. I mean, come on,
obviously,
like that's people are saying it was just a fluke in Katowice. Like, come on, it's like it's. We don't know that, of course, but like, of course, Donk was eventually going to like start getting countered now that there are majors out there or demos out there, and now that there is like material on him. No, of course. Of course it's going to happen. Mouse played a good game. Mouse played a really good game. They did use Vertigo, which has turned out to be Spirit's sort of punish pick. And they used that to their advantage. But also Mirage. They beat them on Mirage. Which
more
is... that's been the Spirit map. And... well, okay, as for Brolan, he was middling in that series. And across the event, they played like Guild Eagles and Ecstatic. So... good showing from Brolan, but it's not like he had too much to contend with. I'm sort of like I'm feeling good about Brolan because he's still so early in this Mouse team and he's doing all right, and that's pretty much all he needs to be doing in his first few months, I think. He's had good results since coming in consistently. I think they were even top 4 at the event where he was standing in. And yeah, it's gone well for them. They are top of this RMR together with Cloud9, which I guess we didn't actually put them in the show notes, but I think that's a bit of a surprise.
It is, yeah.
The point of what I wrote down is that Donk is mortal. Donk had a slightly weaker showing than normal. They still won against Ensign Astralis early on, and they beat Heroic where Donk showed up. So it's still looking good for Spirit, I think. But it was almost nice to see that it wasn't just the Donk show.
Yeah. You can finally say that. I've seen a lot of people try to make that point, and it never made any fucking sense until this event. Because prior to this, we saw Katowice, where saying it wasn't just Donk is a bit redundant. It's ridiculous. It's so absurd to try and make the point at that point. But making it now makes perfect sense. Because not only did they need other players to step up, the maps they lost, like that best of 3 they lost to Mouse, the map was close. Like that Vertigo was close. It wasn't a one-sided slog. Other players stepped up, delivered, so there was a great case to make there that it's not just Donk on this team. In the long run, that has to be there for them to be successful. But I also have to say, Spirit need to change their bloody Vertigo setups. I don't care about any of the points you can make in favour of Donk being the B anchor. Why is he not fighting ramp? This is why you lose to Mouse. This is why you lose to so many teams. You've put him in a terrible spot, which he just isn't suited to. And then on top of that, you've taken him away from a spot he really is suited to. If he's really just the wide swinger of the decade and can just smash everyone's head off, that's exactly where he needs to be. It's literally, if Senary can wide swing at top sandbags and multi-kill people with consistency, what the fuck can Donk do? So please, get him over there. There is no reason to have him over on the B site holding his knob half the round. That makes no sense. So please change that up. That make me so much happier if I could see Donk playing a proper position. And then if he failed, yeah, we can call him Wash and have a conversation about how great Zontix is or whatever, but fix the setups first. I think that's really important. Next little point, Falcons flopped pretty dramatically. And we'll get onto the repercussions of that later. I noticed you put that in, but we'll talk about it a little later when it comes up again. For now, a little bit disappointed is an understatement. But I did want to address who they played, because it seemed a bit... It had some context, because they lost BO1s to FaZe and Eternal Fire, which in context is pretty difficult. FaZe in a BO1.
Yeah.
FaZe are one of the best teams. Eternal Fire in a BO1. You've got one chance. Don't fuck it up against 3 lethal fraggers. Like 3 of the most lethal fraggers you can face in this sort of level. Bit of an issue. Now, the big disappointment is losing to Amcal.
It's all hinging on that game, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. A best of 3 player, you're supposed to be the better team. And sure, Mirage was an overtime loss, but we just didn't see what we need to see. I think Mirage is the map where, especially Boros, I'm going to rag on him a little bit because even though his stats look okay at the end of the day, I watched the game. You don't get away with it. That 21 for 21 with 1.16 rating, oh, it's okay, I had an impactful game. No, you didn't. You played like arse. You died too many times in places you shouldn't have been fighting. It was a poor performance. Just to add salt to the wounds, though, we didn't get much out of some Pius in terms of star play, and we didn't get a whole lot out of Magisk in terms of him pulling his weight. So across that best of 3, there was a lot of disappointment, and it ultimately led to what we're going to discuss later. But for now, Falcons' massive letdown. They had to be making the majors. That was the point of this roster. Shit, their ambition is to win them. Really wasn't good enough, and I hate to say it about a player who was on Prospects who I raved about so much, but Boros played horribly the entire RMR long, and it's so disappointing to watch.
I'm starting to feel like one day Boros is going to be an interesting case study in like wasted talent or failed talent or unrealized talent. Because we all saw him like years ago, and it was this guy is legit as fuck. Kind of hung around, and now I don't know. I feel like maybe Falcons haven't been patient with him. Maybe they genuinely haven't been. Maybe this is too early to cut him, like in hindsight. But
they're not a team that's supposed to stick around, though. They're not a team that's supposed to wait. That's the problem. They're a team that's supposed to be winning now, and he had his time on the stages before. He's had the the sort of shock of, hey, you're in Falcons. We cut fucking everyone. Focus up. Yeah. It's just you who lived. That was the time to nut up and actually put the work in, and I don't think he has. There's still something in his mental game that's lacking. If he's not capable of it, well, he's gonna have to play on. He's gonna have to find a random eclectic group like a Bad News Eagles level team to just frag with. But if he isn't trying, there's a different problem.
Yeah, what was it Sonic said in that headline? He needed to become more professional, and he did, and that was about a month ago.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it's just him sleeping in his hotel room at night, but like, in terms of actual like discipline on the server, it's very different. Because maybe he has taken a chill pill when it comes to being like a professional and like locked in terms of attending trainings on time, taking practice seriously. That might be all good, but it's not translated. So clearly, something still needs to be worked on.
They lost to Amcal, and I feel like with the next point we can sort of start by touching on Amcal maybe before we move on, because they kind of showed up in my opinion. They surprised me. I like Amcal, and I thought they had a chance of going through, but they looked good. They looked like a good team in my opinion. 2-1 win against Falcons, 2-1 win against 9 Pandas. Obviously, I mean, let's be honest. No one in the server should have won the series against NIP or the game against NIP. There was no one who should have won that game, but they did. Amcal.
Yeah, they did play They played not just one. I'm sorry, they played Amcal. The overall results are flattering because Amcal played multiple of the worst maps of the entire RMR. Some of the most horrendous. I mean, losing to Enterprise is just funny for a start, but then the NIP game, which they won in like quintuple overtime or whatever it is now, I can't be asked with the maths, they played horrible. NIP played horrible. They won almost by default because they had people showing up. The same thing can be said about the Fnatic game, though, to be honest. They lost it close before overtime. Mercy upon us all, thank you, heavens. But at the same time, it was gross. 24 rounds of nonsense. So I wasn't really a fan of either of those games. And sure, the best of 3s they won. They got through, but it was never pretty. And that 9 Pandas series, seeing how 9 Pandas made it through the last chance qualifier, which is congrats to them, awesome to see Caesar the major again, they should have lost that game as well. I think if they have a different lineup of players, if certain guys don't step up like almost out of nowhere, they don't probably make it through. So I think Amcal, nice, but I'm very reserved about my high-end expectations for this team. I'm not expecting a whole lot more. I was hoping if they made it through, I'd be very excited. Seeing guys like Travis, Forrester, IC playing together, I was like, good players, solid players, should be successful. The playstyle is rough.
Well, you can work with that. You can. This is like a good result, and then it's still a pretty new lineup. Like they sort of mushed together the Entropic stuff with the newer one win stuff, and then IC is kind of in here, and they just got a coach like the day of the RMR officially announced. So I feel like there's definitely stuff you can work out. Like you have, it's it for them. This is a start. Like this is their start as a team, and I think there's stuff to work with. So I'd be keen to see what they do, but I should also note both of the best of 3 wins against Falcons and Nine Pandas were reverse sweeps after single-digit losses in the first maps, which is sort of impressive in itself. When you lose single digits on both first maps and then you still reverse sweep it, that's cool.
Yeah, the mentality's there. There's a core there that have some history, so that probably helps a lot. I can't get over what some of the abominations I saw. So let's quickly move on to, I think, the biggest issue, the thing that, not really an issue, but the thing that generated the most buzz, the most conversation online. It was Astralis not making it out. Now, they did go to the last chance qualifier, got pretty readily thumped there. It didn't look very impressive from them. I want to hear your thoughts first before I go off, because I'm sure you have opinions on this.
I like Nine Pandas. I couldn't watch the game, but I like Nine Pandas. I watched the players for a while. Clack's glowing, I disbalance, quite like. I think they showed when they won that LAN in the last year. Ever since then, they've sort of been on the down low, really been prepping hard, I feel like, because they didn't play much after that one LAN. Perry, please. And then they played basically nothing. And I've sort of had in the back of my head, like, ever since then, that like these guys are still good. These guys are still like tier 2 LAN champions. So I did think that they definitely could make it through. And they did by the skin of their teeth. Like, again, after they won the first map so convincingly against Amcal, I thought they were through already then. But they also pulled through against legitimately good teams. So the Astralis game is, if we're talking about Nine Pandas, but if we're talking about Astralis,
yeah, we're talking about Astralis. I think we need to talk about Astralis.
I'm sorry, I got stuck. I got stuck on a different point. Astralis, they're kind of fucked. I don't have a lot to say about them. I saw the odds on the Nine Pandas Astralis game, and for me, it was like favor Nine Pandas, but the bookies were like, nah, 3.4 times the money on Pandas. So that was the easiest bet of my life. And yeah, no, I think it's so weird, and I just don't like it. And Device was pissed off in interviews and stuff, and he looked genuinely upset. And Jabby and Sound, what are they doing here? And they send Stare out for the interview, and fucking Ronick did an interview, I think, who is a temporary coach, 23 years old. Yeah, go off on your rant, because I think you're gonna put the words in my mouth. So go ahead.
I'm probably not, actually. I'm probably not, because I have a couple things that you're addressing. I mean, the first thing that is probably actually along the same lines what you're thinking. Fuck me, Blame F. What are we doing here? What are we doing? That I feel like I'm still watching a guy trying to carry complexity with a bunch of no-namers. You're not on complexity anymore. Please, for the love of all things, stop being the star of the team. Or cut someone and sign an IGL. Like, you surely have the power to do that. Either way, you need to make that decision. You cannot be the star in IGL of a winning team. That's not an option. Secondly, why are you not doing interviews? Why are you not doing the interviews? You are the IGL. The L is right fucking there. Leader. Yeah. Your team is playing like arse. You've made 2 new signings. Your star AWPer, who's supposed to be basically the next best thing on the team. He's supposed to be the best thing, but under you, the next best thing. He's saying he's miserable, just openly in interviews, and you're not addressing anything. There's an issue here. You need to nut the fuck up and do these interviews. But the thing I actually put in the notes where I'm saying I actually kind of got a bit of a contrarian take is I don't want Astralis to fail. I'm not going into this with a fuck Astralis mindset, because, and this is going to shock some people, because I have been openly hostile to, as well, many parts of the Astralis organisation in the past. But that's nothing new. I've been anti certain people before, but I'm pro them for this simple fact. I want an established, dominant, unquestioning top 5 or 6 teams that I can see at every major, every big event, playing in all the big finals and all the big semis, playing amazing Counter-Strike. Most teams do not have the roster to do that. Astralis do. They just do. They have more talent than almost anyone assembled right now in the top 20. I mean, if we exclude like literal individual peaks, no one, if you're looking at the totality of rosters, has this kind of power. Like, they should be joining Vitality, FaZe, Spirit, up there at the top. as consistently one of the best teams. But seeing as they're failing that, we're kind of fucked. We're going to be continually seeing random teams making it through quarterfinals, making it into semis, making things look cheap, weakening things. I want to see the Astralis team succeed, but I think the first step is Blamef nutting up, taking a backseat, giving his spots over to other players, and playing support. Essentially playing support. He can still win clutches, he can still have big impact when, his mechanics just outperform his position, because it happens all the time. Shit, if Karrigan can lead teams whilst also randomly winning 1v2s and 1v3s, you can lead a team whilst randomly winning them at a much higher rate. You can be far more impactful in those random moments where you think, oh my god, the IGL moment, big stage, big buff moment. You can have those moments, just have them on stage and have it whilst winning games. I don't need your 1.16 rating year round. Don't give a fuck. Give it up. Be an IGL. That's basically, that's my Astralis thoughts. Just vomited into a mic.
Yeah. I think you've got a point. I think you could probably fix this team by cutting pretty much anyone, save for Device. Because
if he's going to be miserable and not happy playing Counter-Strike, you do have to cut him. That's just a locker room disease. That's a problem. But yes, in theory, if they're all happy, yes.
Everyone here is clashing in a strange way, except for Device since he's opping, but I feel like pretty much anyone, the entire team could probably benefit if any of the riflers got cut. Maybe not Stair, but yeah. But then the big question would be leadership. But I have sort of a counter to that. If you're gonna get a different kind of leader, so to say, more of a real IGL, what some might say. They had Glaive there for ages. And I know that those rosters had a lot of problems themselves.
Yeah.
But maybe that doesn't work either. I don't know. I feel like to a point, it's almost pointless to talk about Astralis based on what we've heard, because I think it was fairly recently, I think it was Richard Lewis with his big dig on the Stown Yabi move.
Yeah.
Astralis just don't care. They don't care about the results. They want the best players, and they want them to play for Astralis, and they want whatever sort of fan base that gives. They don't care about making the top 4 of the major. They probably would have liked to be at the major, but they don't care about making playoffs. They don't care about winning as much as they care about being the Danish team. And apparently you can do that by signing the best players, according to them. I suppose in due time they'll be proven wrong. This might be that point where they find out it's actually important to do stuff as well. But until something changes with the outset of this team, or the way their mindset seems to be as an organization, I feel like it's almost pointless to try to fix this team, because they won't do it. So why should we? Why should we even theorize what they're going to do or should do? They won't do it. Let's be real. What do you think the odds are that the next player who gets cut on this roster is Stair, and we get someone what could it be? Config. I don't know. Some Danish rifler, bigger name than Stair comes into here.
Yeah, I think that this all changes now, because being, as you said, they are sort of angling for this cultural impact idea, to use Maui's signature phrase. But it's silly, because underperformance has led to them not making the Danish major. To be the biggest team in Denmark and not be the Danish major at all is a bit of I'd call it a slip up, at least in terms of marketing. Because that's pretty much 101, be at the Danish major. I do want to make a quick side point in favour of them. They did have perhaps the toughest run of anyone at the RMR, because they did play Ents, Monty, Heroic Spirit. I mean, Nexus, but whatever. They did have a pretty difficult run, all things considered. But it's still no excuse, because they did get the last chance qualifier, play nobodies and lose. So, all things considered, they should have come through. But I just want to say, even if you're angling for this cultural impact idea, and you sign Config, he somehow still has a fan base, despite being, from all reports, a violent alcoholic. What are we really trying to achieve? Are we going to change to a streamer house? Are we going to stop playing competitive Counter-Strike entirely and just do like reality TV shit. Like, it makes no sense to me to never try to be a good team. So that there has to be a change that's made. Maybe not even in terms of roster, but just in terms of mentality. If that involves bringing in a new coach who's going to actually try and, yell at Blame F, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't think he responds particularly well to leadership if the Glaive era was anything to go by. So I'd rather you actually change his mentality, lock him in as the leader, but make him aware of what that is supposed to look like, and then move on, rather than making another cut. Like, bringing in IGL for Stare, I don't think actually fixes everything. I don't think it fixes a whole lot of anything at all. So probably a mentality change from Blame F is the one thing that makes this roster go from this constant borderline relevance to actually competitive.
Do you think Rugga is that coach? Because he's the one coming in.
Oh, I forgot they actually confirmed that.
Yep.
I
don't think so.
I'm not going to pretend to know enough about Rugga as a man to say whether or not.
Just look at OG's results. Like,
the track record isn't brilliant. The track record isn't brilliant. But yeah. I don't want to say anything because maybe he is. Maybe he does have the right mentality. Maybe he will connect with Blame F on a level. Man management is a bit of an art in that sense. But I'll agree. the precedent isn't there. But I think that's gonna. I think we need to wrap up and move on because we've been here a while. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got another rant coming, so let's go on to the Eternal Shuffle. The Eternal Shuffle, because the changes never stop. They never ever stop. NIP.
Yep.
They've cut everyone. Well, not really everyone, but they've cut Config, Hentrick, Esatag. Oh, finally, and DJL. I'm going to let you start on this because my voice is getting tired and I need to save myself. So, go ahead.
Okay, so I think this was pretty much always going to happen. If NIP are being completely honest with themselves, Config was probably only there to keep the RMR spot at this point. Well, no, of course, they chose between Config and Roland, but then they had an abysmal. They've had an abysmal run since Alex came in, and I think even before the RMR, probably NIP management knew that Config was part of the problem, and he was only going to be staying for the RMR, assuming they didn't make it, of course, but they didn't. So, I think it's such a weird thing to talk about because it's like the fourth time in 3 years NIP have blown up their roster and built something new. Only this time they do it all at once. Rather than in 2-month increments. Config being gone, I think Config was the only player you had to cut on this team. And then I think DJL moving is also good because he has gone a bit too long now without any real results. So you might as well try someone else. I don't think DJL brings something to the table that nobody else could. So I think it's good that somebody else is going to be giving him a chance here for as coach. Config was the only player I think you had to cut. I think Esatag, he could have stayed, he could have gone. It was like if you replaced just Esatag, this team still wouldn't have qualified. There's no one you could replace him with that would have made this team qualify. But and then Hentrick, I'm sort of 50-50 on Hentrick. I think Hentrick is an interesting talking point here because he did good stuff. 2023, he was great under the circumstances because NIP were dog shit, but he put in a 1.09 average in his first tier 1 year. He was the best player on the team statistically. And I'm curious to see what offer they sign, because if they sign another youngster, then I'm sort of wondering why didn't they just stick it out with Hedrick? They already had a couple of years, a year worth of development with him. Why start over with a new youngster? So, but that's sort of my thoughts about the moves in general. It's neither here nor there. I think they kept the right players. I think keeping Alex is good because please give IGL time, please. And I think keeping Res is fine. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but he under Alex, now that he has positions that he's actually kind of comfortable with, rather than the last roster where he was playing a lot of anchor positions. Now that he's doing that, he's doing well, and I think hopefully he can actually keep doing well at this point. I do have one thing that is, it might sound like copium, but I'm actually pretty sure this is
about Swedish Counter-Strike.
This is not a huge amount of copium, but one of the big opinions I saw when this move happened and when they bombed out of the RMR last place was, when are they going to cut management? When are they going to make changes to management? This management has to go. The last round of changes in the past 5 months, since the end of September, has been record levels of staff turnover in NIP management already. So that's sort of, but those changes take time to go into effect. Like we won't see the effects of a new manager and all of the structure above them for maybe a year to come to see the full effects of it. So that is my sort of small point about, like, this is a low point. This is probably the lowest the team has ever been as an organization. There might be greener pastures ahead, because we've had, like, before Threat came back as the team's general manager and Eric Wendell moved to a different position in the team, closer to the actual team. Before that happened, the last roster move was Threat leaving from the technical director spot at the end of 2022. So, and before then it was Mahone in 2021 as the analyst. So we've actually had a big turnover. We've had the COO Jonas Gundersen leave. We've had the old manager leave. We've had Haste, the analyst. He got cut after they bombed out of the RMR. And we have this new manager. We have this new director of esports, which is Eric Wendell. There's stuff happening in the management that I think could have repercussions later on, positive impact on the team, which isn't me saying that it's not copium. I don't believe anymore. This is not my team anymore. This is not my team anymore. I don't believe it will make things better, but there's an out here. Like, if they play their cards right, things could get better. But I think it would be interesting. You've put a list of players in the show notes here.
That's a whole thing I'm about to delve into. I'll address your points first, but yes.
What I think is they should have good opportunities to sign good players for the, like, after the major. I think a no-brainer Essetag replacement is JKS. And if you can't get him, then get Maxter.
Yes.
But aside from that, if they sign another op youngster, then I'm sort of wondering why is Tedrick on the bench in the first place. I think what they maybe should go for, in my opinion, would be someone a bit more stable who can, like, ground the team. And for me, that would be someone like Mantu, but I know that's sort of maybe an unpopular opinion. And as for the final rifler spot as the config replacement, there's a bunch you could pick from. I think Nilo is one obvious one. He's got to be in their sights, but Nilo has already turned NIP down twice. And there's also Joel, if they really don't care about their PR. There's also there's also Adam B. I'll be honest, Adam B would work. He shoots hard, and he's comfortable in those aggressive positions. There's a bunch of players you could go for, but I think a starting point would be JKS would actually be a solid starting point, because that's probably the one player where I feel like out of the three they benched, he would be a hard upgrade straight away, and there's no question about it. So that's sort of my thoughts on the move in general. It was a long point, but let's see what you have to say about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, anyone over Essetag is going to be a hard upgrade at this point. He's been the most fraudulent tier 1 pro for like 4 years. But outside of that, let's start with... Yeah, they've made 3 cuts. 4 if you include coach. Rez has survived another massive change at NIP. He's just like the legacy employee, like the old dog you just can't seem to get rid of at the pub. You know, he's just always there. Who knows if he's ever going to be useful, but he's going to be there forever, so might as well just live with that fact. But my point was quite simply this. If NIP had at any point in the past gone, we do have one of the most high-performing academies in the entire European scene. What if we just signed some of these guys? Let's just go through quickly the roster they could have. A 5-man roster. Just an example. They could have ZTR, Nilo, Adam B, Maxter, with... You've got a pick of like 3 AWPers they've had in their academy. I'm not too in love with any of their AWP choices, but whatever.
Fuzi would be good.
Fuzi I like personally the most out of the options, really. But then you look at the players they could have if they weren't the rat scum of the earth and no Swedes ever want to play with them. If they had been decent people, they could also have had their choice of Brolan. Rez is still here, but I just put him on the list because he's Swedish. Polopsky, or most importantly, the one who fixes your one gap, Nork. So you would have had a young roster of very promising players, and in my opinion, some of the most promising players Sweden has seen in years, as well as options to upgrade if things don't start working out. But instead, we're stuck here with this, two people, 3 young ninjas standing in for who knows how long, and no real chance to build a Swedish super team anytime soon. You've got no shot. So this is very soon going to be the laughing stock of, well, the entire scene if they don't pull some miracle out their ass. And they are going to be, I'm going to say this now, they're going to be overtaken in the rankings by Metasport by summer. Metasport will be a high-ranked team, using their old Young Ninjas coach, using 3 Young Ninjas players who were like there together, I think, at one point, and using other players who've all been adjacent to the Young Ninjas Academy. So this is going to be the most embarrassing year for NIP in a while. It's going to be, they need it. It's like a cleanse, you know, you drink a bunch of like fruit juice, shit yourself. Like, this is what they're doing. They're cleansing. They need to do it, but it's going to be embarrassing, and I hope they really take that to heart, because they need to be embarrassed. They were able to scour through like the back streets of shitty teams, being like, "Ooh, don't look at us. Remember, EG sucks." Like, no. This is their time in the spotlight to get laughed at, mate, just absolutely roasted by everyone. They're going to lose a bunch of events, sign nonsense players, but maybe at the end of it they'll come out of it with something. Maybe not. Maybe at the end of it they just fold. Either way, they need to be terrible for a year, and I can't wait.
They do. They do need to be terrible, and at least at this point, they are going to be terrible with a purpose. Knock would be the perfect offer for this roster.
In theory,
no matter what happens, Knock would have been perfect for this roster. Like, no matter if they sign JKS, no matter if they sign a Swedish core, no matter whatever happens, Knock would have been perfect. But he will never sign. He just won't, because they will not swallow their pride and pay what the $150,000 he claims he's owed. He might be owed. I do wonder if probably the reason they just refuse to pay Knock that money is because they would also have to pay all of the other 2020 players that same amount of money, which would be
the right thing.
It would be the right thing, but at that point we're up to like $100 million, or what am I saying? $1 million, $900,000. Would have been $900,000 in total that you have to pay out. That maybe you aren't even owed. Like, I haven't seen Knock's contract. I'm not sure he is actually owed that money, but he won't sign. He would have been perfect. He's a pretty stable opper. On Apex, he's actually proved to be very stable. He has peaks that are higher than Mantus in this case.
Yep.
You get that Swedish clout. He is a top opper in the world at the moment. He probably won't be for too much longer. Let's be honest. I think he has an expiration date. This is probably possibly his prime, like his career prime that we are in right now. This is when you really want to have him on NIP, but you won't. You just won't have him. And next to him, I don't know. There's also a point to make, that is, post major. Let's say an actually good opper becomes available. Let's say through some miracle, Simple wants to op on Falcons and Sun Pius gets cut. Sun Pius is now available. There are going to be a lot of teams looking at him. Can NIP really offer anything that an org like Complexity couldn't offer, or FaZe couldn't offer, or fuck if I know, Mouse couldn't offer? Like, there's a point as well where even if there's a great opper who is available, even if there's several great oppers who are available, NIP might just not be able to get them. Which is why I feel like Montu is sort of that, like, maybe just snatch him up and work with him, because he's probably the best you're going to get either way. And work with him for a bit. And then once you've sort of built up your cloud again and you're actually a decent looking team with an upwards trajectory, then maybe you can get a big name opera in. But
that's gonna be limited.
Fuck NIP. Fuck NIP. This is all right. Let's move on. We have Falcons as well. Boris
we do.
He got
we do have to talk
for
about
the RMR.
that. But yeah, I do love you. You're still on every thumbnail in an NIP jersey. This is the best part of all this. Just low-key.
Yeah,
that's amazing. But yeah, Falcons, they cut Boris, as we said, and they brought in Simple. I was in the gym when this got announced, and I was just looking at my phone like, are you joking? Like, this isn't real, surely. Because it looks, honestly, the picture they've put out isn't a real picture. It looks like an edit. Someone's thrown together.
It is an edit. I know that face. It's an older Navi picture.
Yeah, it really
it's not
is
the
old.
New one, I think.
So I looked at it, I was like, this. I tried to see who made it, so it was like, what's his name? Kyra Kier or some shit?
Kine,
that guy. He makes really good fakes, right? So I was like, maybe this is one of his like jokes. And I saw it was from Team Falcons something. I was like, no, has he changed his name? Tapped on the account. Oh, that's the real. They actually did this. Oh god. Okay, fair enough. Cut Boris then. Yeah, cut Boris. I mean, I wasn't exactly rooting for him, like, to stay on the team after what we saw at the RMR. I thought he was the player to cut. But yeah, fair enough. If I'm Boris, I can't make a case for me to stay over Simple. Like, that makes no sense. So yeah, Simple comes in. I'm assuming he's rifling because, well, some Pius still exists. So he's committed to the bit of you can't AWP in CS2, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Bit weird considering all the AWPers doing just fine, but whatever. At least he's now on a team. And I said this, I think I said this on like a Reddit post, like when Simple came out and said he didn't want to play on Cloud9 because of Russians. I just had a comment. It's like, yeah, now any other team he joins basically is going to be some monstrous super team. Like, I wonder which monstrous super team he's going to create. Like, cause if he's not playing on Cloud9 as their AWPer, which somehow got downvoted, but also ended up, well, with this reality. He has created a monster. He has joined Falcons. He is rifling. I'm a little confused. I'm not sure how terrified I should be. Is the real thought process? Does this mean Madden returns to supportive roles and he turns into the main star of the team on the rifles? How's this going to work? But also, I'm very excited to discover it.
I think before we go too hard into the long-term repercussions for Falcons as a team, it is a 1-month loan. I think Falcons have the intention of signing him, but they're sort of in negotiations. It is a 1-month loan, and I think I heard someone say that Simple was on stream sort of explaining the move, and he's mostly here because he wants to prove to himself that he still got it. He thinks that maybe he didn't want to dive headfirst into a 3-year contract without knowing if he still has it. And he thinks that maybe he's a bit out, which is strange to say about the best of all time. But he's
yeah.
Yep, but it's a 1-month loan. I think he just straight up takes Boris positions, don't you think? The harder, more aggressive positions where he can just sort of go nuts.
It's I mean, it depends, because if we're talking Simple back before he was superstar, number one player in the world, he was always, there was a time when he was the best player in the world, just not recognized as such. But if we talk back then, we're talking the raw early days Simple, yeah, I'd put him in Boris spots because he just has a much higher game sense. He can figure things out on the fly better, adapt, and then you can just throw himself around the corners and frag everyone. But I might want to see him in a more restrained spot. I don't know. I want to see what Snappy does. For me, this is just a long-term curiosity project. I want to see what Snappy is able to do with Simple. I've always been rooting for Snappy, no matter which org he signs with. So hopefully this looks good. Hopefully he gets him the right spots and they can win some trophies together. If it does manifest in a long-term play. If it does end up being a loan to test the waters, then to just go somewhere else for Simple, whatever. Whatever. We'll have that discussion if it ever happens. But for now, pretty interested. Pretty interested in what comes of this. Right. Prospects of the week. This one's a bit weird. Mostly because there was so much Counter-Strike going on that didn't involve many smaller teams. It was all the tier 2 rosters that matter ended up at the RMR. So we didn't have much in terms of online play. So we have a couple picks. I mean, both of our picks are from the RMRs. And mine, I am stretching the definition of prospect because I get to. Because Prospect is my show, this is my show, ha 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 ha. So I've picked Fame, who, as Quacke correctly pointed out, is a major champion. And yes, he does count as a prospect. Why? Because he's 20 and he was on Prospects 3 years ago at this point, so I'm going to talk about him. Virtus Pro played clinical CS, honestly, there's not much to say beyond that point. It made it look really easy. There's nothing difficult about their run through. Fame looked amazing, Flit looked amazing. But I chose to talk about Fame. He's always been mechanically solid. He's always had a really good understanding of his role, how to play each rifle role. When he was on, even back, he was on K23. If he had to hard entry, he pathed correctly. If he had to trade, he was great timing, great spacing, really good at adjusting and overcoming different setups. So always liked Fame. In this team, he's thriving under their weird style where he gets to take a lot these sort of contact shots and then have to make late round plays. He's thriving. So, big fan of Fame. Glad to see him show up at this event. Keep it short and sweet. Quack, you have chosen someone with a very difficult name to pronounce.
Yes, I don't know how to say this. It's Aros Doce. It's the guy from SAW, Portuguese guy from the Portuguese team of SAW, who miraculously qualified for the major. That's a talking point we missed. They are going to the major. I think this might be the record number of Portuguese players at a major ever.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, eternal number 30 ranked team SAW are playing a major, and Aros Doce did very well in the RMR to make it happen. It's not too much. I don't know too much about this guy. I SAW are the eternal number 30 ranked team. I don't know much about them. But he showed up on the stats sheet, and that's sort of That's good. He was the second best player for Saw, behind Jerks, who is not the Opper, but he's a rifler, I think. He's weird. I feel like often when we see a rifler putting up numbers at an event like this, it's normally like the aggressive guy, like this sort of early round aggressive lurker, the guy who has like the better positions 2024. This guy's really passive, or at least he was during this RMR, which is sort of strange. I feel like because we don't really see those numbers from those riflers a lot of the time, I think. But he played a good game, plays a good game, just in general for this team. And yeah, if there's anyone you're gonna highlight from Saw, I guess it would be him and Udrix. They played a good event.
They really did.
Yeah, very good event. Also from that O2 run after stomping NIP. And yeah, moved on to the major 3-2. Who did they beat? They beat Enterprise and Fnatic. So but
yeah, not the toughest run at the end, but a little dampener. But I do want to address that one point. It is true we don't see these smaller teams, lesser known teams, have star players come from the backline. Come from the closing positions, and there's usually a good reason for that. To be good at that stuff, you need to have really high game IQ. You need to have a team that has good calls to even make something happen in late rounds if you need them. Because yeah, they win by battering the front door in. Having a mechanically skilled player they put in the right place, that wins them rounds. That's typically how the story goes and has gone for a little bit. But Aros Doce, yeah, played a solid game. I only watched, I think, 2 of their games. One of them was them losing to Virtus Pro, which wasn't the prettiest showing. But no, I think the overall for them, they've got a couple players that have been around a little bit now on various rosters who've always looked solid, but they can never string it together in the right moments. Qualifying for the occasional Pro League, qualifying for the occasional thing, but never really having a consistent run. This might be it, because this might be the best Portuguese roster ever assembled. Them and Koi have made it through, so it's kind of a golden age for Iberian Counter-Strike. We'll see what comes of it. Maybe there'll be another even bigger super team crafted at the end of all this. Who knows?
Yeah, because we can think of so many Portuguese players who are missing out of these rosters.
No, I just mean smashing the two together, just finding the 5 best pieces out of those two. But for now, yeah, very cool. Great performance from Aros Doce. Jerks also deserves to be given a thumbs up, so there you go. And yeah, can't wait to see them at the real major. Well, the major qualifier. But yeah, let's move on to the monthly member Q&A, because it is the final episode of the month. Feels weird to say that on the 25th, but that is how maths work. So, our first question. This is going to be, of course, open to both, but I'll let you answer first. After you saw both of the RMR groups, what is the most likely major top 4 we will get? And also, on the other side of it, what is the top 4 you wish we would get? So, I'm going to let you start on this, but I think we can address both of them at once if you want to just keep it snappy.
I think the likely one, there's 3 teams I think are likely, and then the 4th spot is a bit difficult to say. I think FaZe, Mouse, and Spirit are shoo-ins for the top 4 at the moment. And then for the final spot, I feel like it's sort of Vitality would be the one, but I think they've been almost shaky, like slightly so far this year. I would say Vitality is the most likely. I think there's a good chance that G2 or Cloud9 also make it in there. But that's more on day form, I think. But I'd say FaZe, Vitality, Spirit, Mouse, which is boring because it's the HLTV top 4. I don't know. Would you disagree with that as the likeliest top 4 at the moment?
No, you're not wrong. But you're wrong in one thing. I don't see how you can have more faith in Mouse than Vitality, just in general. Because one's sure, they had a bad Katowice. They then came back and dumpstered everyone that they could at this event.
Except Cloud9.
But Cloud9, what the fuck? Would you ever predict that to happen more than once? Has it happened more than once that Cloud9 are good against good teams? No. So we're going to ignore that, because when it comes to the actual major and you're making a prediction, realistically, the current reigning major champions, as well as, the best team in the world probably still, should be a favourite for top 4 above Mouse, 4 Kids and a Dream. So I do think that there's a strong possibility that Mouse make it top 4. There's no reason to doubt that. They have been very good. Spirit, obviously the most dangerous looking side in the world right now. Let me just scroll through the ranking, just see if I think there's anyone who I think is going to be better at this event than we expect them to be.
I feel like everyone from 5 and below at least has question marks. Like they could do it, but they probably won't.
I think you have to give G2 the big stage credit that they have a better chance than Mouse to be top 4. And I think a lot of people would put Virtus Pro up there. I'm still not sure on Virtus Pro. I still don't like their record, essentially. Like they've beaten a couple good names. Like beating Na'Vi on current form is more impressive than it used to be. But overall, you still have to go like just scrolling through their history to find a single relevant victory. So I'm still not sold on Virtus Pro. I mean, I think it's even Maui had them as his like 3rd best team in the world or some stupid shit on the last episode of Hot Take Point Made. Sure, it's a hot take for good reason, but I find it hard to believe that they are realistically that favoured. But no, you're right definitely about 3, and that's FaZe, Vitality, Spirit. The 4th is the question mark. I would, if I had to put money on it right now at a bookie, I'd put it on G2 because it's Nico and Monacy, and they both looked amazing in the RMR coming into this. They are historically high-performing players. Sure, they've had struggles in the past. We've all memed on them, but I think they're going to make it through. So that'd be my top 4 pick. The question does kind of dismiss the idea of Liquid being a relevant contender
I thought about that,
in any way, and I think that's a bit presumptuous, to use a silly long word, because I have Liquid as, if we look at the course of the length of this year, when we get to the end of it, we look back, I think we will say Liquid is one of the 5 best teams. I think that's where we're going to end up. And I don't think that's going to be a particularly good thing, because they seem like a team that will either be boom or bust in the same way we saw Astralis kind of come together and be boom or bust. Like, you've got the names, can you make it work? But if it's boom, yeah, it's boom. There'll be more than that. But I think we'll probably see them like number 5. So this major may be too soon, but I wouldn't discount them immediately. They have the talent to be one of the 4 best teams in the world, and they definitely could do it. It's just, can they at any given moment be that team? We will never know.
In a power ranking, yeah, Liquid is probably in the top 4. And I'm gonna pick them as someone I want.
They haven't beat anyone. They haven't beat anyone. They can't be top.
No, I'm just saying, like, look at the players. Look at the players. Like,
okay, on a player ranking. Like, okay.
Yeah, wrong word. Yeah. I'd probably say that they are probably top 4. Like pound for pound with the players.
Sure, that makes some sense. Yeah.
I might actually say that I want to put them there just because I want them in the top 4, just because I feel like Liquid need a break. I feel like this if any Liquid roster is ever going to succeed, it is this one. There's succeed again. Sorry. There's just no way they can make a team that is. I just feel like there's no way a Liquid ever put together a roster that is better than this, save for like maybe cutting one player and adding another one. But like as a core, I feel like this is the best Liquid roster we are going to see moving forward. Okay. So I want them to be top 4. I want Liquid to catch a break at this point, because they've had 3 rebuilds that have just failed. Because there was the Fallen rebuild, and then there was the Rainwaker Patsy rebuild. And
yeah, they've had some terrible attempts.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think I'll probably keep it. There's something in me that just doesn't want Vitality to do well at the major.
It's called racism or xenophobia. I know you hate the French, but we have rights too. Okay.
Je ne sais pas. I'd say FaZe, Spirit, Mouse, and Liquid. That's the top 4 I want. I want Mouse in there. I want Spirit in there. I probably want Spirit and FaZe to be the final, because that's a hella showdown. So I'd say FaZe, Spirit, Liquid, and Mouse. That's the top 4 I want. I don't want G2 to make it far. I don't want Vitality to make it far. I'm honorary mention Na'Vi. I wouldn't be unhappy if Na'Vi make it far as well, because like I feel like this roster is moving upwards slightly.
All right. Well,
so
yeah. Sorry, no. Finish.
I didn't have anything to say. Other than that, I don't want G2 there. I don't want Vitality there. I don't really want VP. I wouldn't be unhappy if VP did well either. I don't want Cloud9 there. I feel like they should build a proper roster. And the rest, I think, are probably just unrealistic. Like I could say I want Apex to be there, because I do, but they won't. So, yeah.
There is something about an underdog that inspires the unexceptional. And in that sense, why the fuck would I want so many teams to be in my top 4? I clearly want the best 4 teams. I want FaZe, I want Spirit, I want Vitality. And in terms of best teams, in between G2 Mouse, I'll pick the team with the better players. I'll take G2 as my top 4 dream. And I don't think they will, because, god damn it, they fucked up their roster. But that's the top 4 I'd want, because I want Nico and m0NESY in the top 4. I want to see them on the big stage in the biggest match. Why the hell would I want to see, like, no offense, but like, Brolan? Bro, give it 6 months, do something again. Then maybe I want you on the biggest stage. But for now, I'd rather see Nico. So that's basically my dream, top 4.
Don't you want to see, like, 5 kids? Like, Sui, Torji, Jimpat, Zershin, Brolan. That would be...
No, I spend pretty much my entire CS life watching kids play, analysing kids. I want it when I'm watching the major, I don't want to have to be recording an episode of Prospects at the same time. Like, give me a fucking like real match between the big swingers, and let's do it properly. Okay. All right, next question. What 2 teams do you think make it to the Blast Spring final through the Showdown? Have you looked at who the hell's playing the Showdown? Because I haven't, and I need to do that right now. Okay, you start with your answer first.
Earlier, Spirit and Falcons are probably making it. They are probably going to be the top 2 seeds. Oh, wait, Cloud9 might be the top 2 seeds, which means that Falcons and Spirit might be on the same side of the bracket. This is the difficult thing with a single elimination bracket, and we don't know the seeding just yet. Blast do their seeding with the best system, which is that they ask all the teams to rank the other teams, and they average it out, which is the best way to rank things. Isak is obviously going to go to the finals. No, but I think Spirit are shoe-in. I would have said Falcons with Simple are going to be the other team, but I think they might end up on the same side of the bracket as Spirit now that I'm looking at it. So I think Cloud9 might be on the other side.
Yeah.
Again, Liquid. Let's not count out Liquid, because Liquid are also here. They've been sort of inactive. They're going to be playing a lot of NA stuff. But they haven't been playing much recently, and they're going to be playing North American things in the RMR. There's a bunch of... This is like an unusually tier 2 showdown field, I feel like, because we have Imperial, Metasport, Elevate, and Rare Atom here as well, and then of course Young Ninjas.
Well, we typically have these sorts of level teams at the bottom. It's just that we're not usually used to the other fill-out teams being, well, Heroic with a new roster, Gamer Legion, a part of the expansion of groups, the temporary teams. Big are down here. OG are just perennially rebuilding mediocre rosters. So, yeah, it feels a little more tier 2 than it usually is, but that's just because of, I think, the expansion of the Blast system. And, yeah, that's all there is to it. I do think you're right, though. The 2 teams that should be favoured are Spirit Falcons, depending on seeding, though. Because if Cloud9 play a good event at the major, they will likely end up being seeded number 2. At which point that bracket becomes wide open.
Showdown is in 10 days, so they're going to be seeded basically on what they've played now.
Ooh.
Yep.
Ooh. Would people actually? Simple is scary. They might put them at number 2.
On that point, Cloud9 made it 3-0. Falcons bombed out, but Falcons also have Simple, so it's difficult.
Falcons plus Simple, I think, still end up as the second seed. So yeah, that's probably the 2 that go through. Dark Horse picks. I mean, I'm going to be watching Metasport just because I think they're fascinating. I don't have any faith in Rare Atom.
The fact that Imperial, Elevate, and Rare Atom are here makes me believe that Metasport is going to be like the 3rd or 4th lowest seed, which means they might get to play like Monty, and that's a winnable game. It's difficult, but that's a winnable game for Metasport, I think.
Yeah, they have winnable games, but there's no... I don't really see anyone making a deep run. So that's pretty much it. The big upsets... They're probably going to be big upsets in terms of Twitter. Like, if... I don't know, Liquid managed to lose a game to Saw or to Big or Game Legion, however the groups, the matchup is shaking out, yeah, there'll be an issue because it's online play, remember, so certain things are going to look a bit funky. I think that's the biggest thing going against Falcons, really, is that they are an old man LAN team. They're not a young boy online roster, so maybe it'll play out a bit weird, but I'm not too worried about it. So that's pretty much it. Here's a weird question.
Liquid is my dark horse, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you think a pure Fragger team with no IGL or coach and the 5 best players in the world popping heads would win tournaments? So when I first thought about this question, I thought I didn't really read it properly, and I was like, oh, could I just win with 5 Fraggers, no IGL, no coach? And immediately I started going to technicalities like, well, obviously someone would have to be IGL, otherwise it would never work because you'd just all be doing different things. Like someone would have the ultimate power just by default, whoever has the most charisma or the biggest mouse, I don't know, whatever it is. But given the real context of the question, the best 5 players with no IGL or coach, yeah, they probably could pop heads and win tournaments. They probably could. Because the best 5 players would be aware of the concept of an IGL, and they would just go, okay, you have ultimate say, we will just go and win everything now. That's essentially it. Sure, there'd be clash, there'd be misunderstandings, there'd definitely be issues. But yeah, you could, given enough attempts with the best 5 players in the world, win events. I think you could.
Yeah.
Not much to it, really. I mean, it'd probably end up like Nico IGLing with Donk, Simple, Zaiwu, and who the fuck else? Who's number 5?
m0NESY.
m0NESY is a good shout.
At the moment, I think it's m0NESY.
Yeah, that's probably right. That's probably the top 5 players in the world. Nico calls, Zaiwu and Simple on the rifles, m0NESY on the AWP. I think that team goes and wins most things.
I mean, there's also a technicality to say here, because I would probably say part of being a player in Counter-Strike is that you might be an IGL. And I think if we factor in leadership as a quality, then maybe Kerrigan makes the top 5 of the best players in the world. So
yeah, I mean, if we're trying to make that argument,
you have an IGL. Yeah. No, okay. If it is literally just 5 stacking face it, but in a LAN tournament. I
mean, think about it.
I don't.
Even if it doesn't work, your strategy is terrible. I would bet on, if I have to win 13 out of, 24 rounds? I believe in Simple Zaiwu winning 2v5s, literally, 13 times out of 25 against everyone else in the world. That's essentially my thought with this roster. Even if I don't bang all their heads in on the way in, like with Nico and with Donk, and with potentially whoever out of my superstars wants to go first, I still have the rest of these superstars to go win clutches. I think it works, just by default.
I think I think if the question is could they do it once? Yeah. Could they do it consistently? No. They wouldn't win tournaments plural, I don't think.
You don't think they could win multiple tournaments in a year?
I don't think so, because we keep seeing teams with strong individuals just get countered because they have like the strong individuals become like Achilles heels. So I think eventually you'll just have teams with good IGLs and good coaches that just shut them down. Obviously, there's a limit. You can't just shut down someone who's banging heads, but there's also Simple and Zaiwu will not win 1v2 fights consistently. They will win some of them more than most people, but if they just get eternally double swinged every fight they get, if we're talking about like
they won't. That's the point. It's a 1v2.
I feel like against a team like this, there are no you still lose something when you put in the best players of the in the world. You lose like the other stuff, like the fundamentals. You lose because you're going to end up with like poor cohesion, miscommunication. You're going to end up with like fights, Simple taking a 1 versus 2 fight on the other end of the map, and then suddenly it's a 3v5, and then they just keep playing the site, and then eventually you run out of time. You're gonna end up with shit like this happening more often than in a normal team if we're talking about this. So at that point, I feel like as time goes on, maybe they could flash one event like early on, and people just go, how the fuck are we going to counter this? But then they are going to counter it eventually. So I think tournaments plural, no, but you could probably do it.
Okay,
and you're not far off winning tournaments plural. I think you're one change away from winning tournaments plural, but like adding a coach or adding an IGL, I thought you are definitely one change away from being the best team ever. But there's a reason we have them. Is sort of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I do think I do think they generally they can just win it, but that's fine. We can disagree. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just like we do about Isaac, and same as then, I am right. So, do you think Pera cheated, or do you think they played the online qualifiers legit? I don't want to have a discussion about this. I want to just put this out there. 1, we don't really ever know for sure, and 2, no. So, next question. This comes from ZerpHerpDerp. I haven't read out any of the names for these questions. I'm sorry, I just remembered who wrote this one because it's directly an insult at me. Because you're lazy and the Power 10 never became a series, can you do a rifle power ranking for right now? Now, for those who don't know, I did have this brief idea a long time ago to do like weekly or monthly. I was thinking weekly, but like change it every week, which type of power ranking I'm doing, and have it like on a monthly loop. And it was basically a top 10 power ranking, and the first one I did was for riflers, and it went fairly well. It generated a bunch of controversy, as I hoped it would, a bunch of interaction, but I was just too lazy to make a bunch more. That was the long and the short of it. So I've prepared my list. I'm going to present this, Quack, and then I'm going to have you, have your say. So I'm gonna start at the bottom. I went full controversy though at the start. I was like, number 10, I'm going to NAF. Kind of seems out there. This is for this second. There is such thing as what do you call it? Inertia, where over years and years of being a very good player, you don't drop off immediately. If you've been the best player in the world for 6 months and then you have a bad event, you don't drop off immediately. But like, I have NAF at my 10 because I just think he's always like the 10th best player in the world, like rifler in the world. Like, he's just constantly there. At 9, I have a Liege, who's been the god of CS2. His rating is still bananas. At 8, I have Electronic, who has brought himself back to life at this point in CS2, and he's making it work in Na'Vi. I then have Nerds. This is the part where it pretty much flows, I think. Frozen, Flit, Spinks, Rops, Donk at 2, Nico at 1.
Okay, I think maybe.
Tell me.
So this is right this second. Right this second. Donk is above Nico.
No.
I'll
debate it in a second, but I'll let you finish all your points.
I think right this second in practice means maybe like the past month, and in the past month, Donk put up the best event performance ever. It was the best.
But as I explained, inertia's a thing. Nico was the best rifler in the entire world last year. Sure, we had a bit of a rough patch towards the end, but I still think there's so much inertia behind Nico that the fact that he then smashed the RMR keeps him at 1. I'm sorry, he smashed the RMR.
Right this second, I think Donk just beats out inertia at this point, but that's me. I think Nerds might be a bit too high. He's been good. Yeah. I don't know. Like, he's doing well. Is he doing that well? I don't know. Frozen's probably fair. Flit, I sort of jerked at, but maybe it's also a power ranking. I feel like maybe VP haven't really had the results to make me notice Flit. Yeah, that sounds. You might be right about that.
They've barely lost, just they haven't beaten anyone. That's been the problem.
Yeah. Electronic, my first instinct was that he was maybe a bit too high because he didn't really have. Yeah, I think maybe he shouldn't be on the list at all. If you're doing a power ranking at the moment, I think there's a case for Xantares making this list. They haven't made deep runs, but I think like he as a person could have taken that number 8 spot and then probably would have been above Nerds for me as well.
Okay.
If we're talking like, if we're going so far back as we're considering like the fall season, I think Rops has a case as well because he was also the CS2 god. Just this year he's been a bit lukewarm.
Well, he's number 3.
So he could have
yeah.
Oh wait, you did mention Rops. Sorry,
Rops is number 3, so he is on the list.
Good. I'm pretty much done. Question marks around Electronic if we're going back because Electronics 2023 was. He had maybe 14 bad events and then 2 very good events, which just dragged up his average. And then he's been good so far this year. I don't think you've missed anyone. I think at least everyone has a case for making this. I think Xantares is the one that you might have missed because I think he could make this list ahead of.
He really didn't come to mind. As soon as you said it, I was like, "Ooh, there's an interesting case to make for Xantares." Though it has to be caveated heavily caveated.
There is always a case for Xantares because this is what I say about like the GOAT debate. Depending on how much you weigh team achievement versus individual ability, the very far end of individual ability in like the greatest player of all time, that's Xantares. Because he is just he has always been mechanically fucking amazing. So like there's a universe where he contends with players like Nico for like the top rifler spot, but he just hasn't been there through I don't know if it's
play like 3 years on Bink and he wasn't that good. Like he was good, but he was never that good. But he was never that good. He was never that good. This is that's an L. I'm sorry. I can't.
But this is a different debate. But I think Xantares, you can never really leave him out of a discussion like this of like the best riflers. Especially now that Eternal Fire are actually doing something. So
yeah, long may it last because it's been fun.
Honorable mention. Maybe he could slide into that 10th spot and then NAF moves up to 9 if you cut someone above.
Like Electronic that you seem not so fond of, yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have cut Electronic because I don't really I think maybe he's not the top 10. Yeah, okay. Other than that, it's fair. I don't think you've missed anyone. Everyone else probably should make the list. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting, because I did want to use that to gauge also the general vibe surrounding Frozen versus Nerds, because that came up randomly on a show I was watching of Nerds being better than Frozen, and that shocked me. Cassard, I thought that was a weird take that I very much disagreed with. So I want to see the general feeling surrounding that, because
Nerds being better than Frozen.
Yeah, I'm not on board with it yet. I think I could be one day. There could be a day when Nerds is better than Frozen. I don't think it's today.
I think it's weird to rate Nerds at the moment, just because he moved to Heroic. Like, Ens didn't do too much in the fall season, and then he moved to Heroic, and the stuff Heroic has been playing, like, Heroic don't have the results to really say much at the moment. No, Frozen is better than Nerds. Frozen is better than Nerds. I'm gonna say that.
Okay, but alright, that was the last question. I thought I'd do that a little interesting, like put out my thoughts, and then let you critique them. And yeah,
you missed Isak.
God fucking no.
I'm under contract to mention him every time. Like,
actually, screw it. This isn't in the show notes. Let's throw in a Dr. Duck's diagnosis. Fix Gamer Legion.
Fix Gamer Legion, you have to cut a core, you need a better opera, and honestly, Volt is not good enough. Cut him. Kios can stay, he's replaceable, but if they like him, then he should stay. There's no point in getting a support player who's going to do like slightly better at the expense of not liking him outside the server. So if they like Kios, keep him. Keep Isak. Keep Snacks. Actually, yeah, okay, one Kios replacement I could get behind. Bird from Sky and move IGL off of Snacks. I think Volt isn't cutting it as your main star. Snacks is your second star now, which kind of makes Volt a bit redundant. Get someone else in there. If I have to pick players, MHL as the opper, and fuck it, he can bring K with him from 9, and that's something. That's something.
Well, now that we've been able to successfully put this guy's credentials into debate, because he is the only human alive who is looking at Game Legion going, you know what? We'll keep Isak, we'll cut Volt. Kios, maybe why not? We need 2 shitty support players. Complete garbage. We need 2 of them on the roster to keep it balanced when we get good players, right? No. Terrible take.
Isak is the JKS of like the G2 lineup that we had, the good G2 lineup. Isak is the JKS.
Except
and out of the players they have right now, him and Snacks are the only people filling their jobs on this team.
He's not. He's so bad.
He's so bad. They are. Snacks is the hunter.
No, Snacks is good. Snacks is great. Snacks
they need a Monacy.
Isak?
Yeah, you keep Snacks. But you need a Monacy in here, which I take your bet on MHL, and you need a Nico. I don't know if K is that player. I just thought that like make it a 9 double move. Kios, I guess, you know, in the server he is the Hooksy, I guess. But like,
how shit does Kios and Isak have to be before you just cut them straight up? Like, how shit do they have to play? Tell me. Give me a quantitative measure.
You could cut Kios. You could cut Kios and add pretty much anyone. Literally, you won't improve the team.
Anyone. You would improve the team.
Like, okay,
you wouldn't have Kios anymore.
Make no other changes. Who are you adding for Kios who actually makes the team have better results? There's no one.
Someone with a mouse and a keyboard. Like any human with a mouse and a keyboard who can listen to basic instruction can play instead of Kios. I don't care who it is.
What speaks for Kios for me is that in the server, whatever he does, it hardly matters. Like, he does, but like no one else is gonna do it that much better where it's important. If they like him, it's better to keep him because they seem to really like him.
Who doesn't throw his life away and actually contributes in a 5v4 because it's not made it a 4v5
That's his role.
By default. No, it's not his role. There's no role on the team of just go die somewhere. That's not a role. That's a default fucking problem. Like, how is this acceptable to anyone? I mean, Isak is slowly becoming the most overrated player in the scene. Which is impressive considering he plays for Gamer Legion. It's incredible. But like, the fact that you said you couldn't think of anyone who could do what Kios does better than Kios or have more of an impact on winning than Kios is crazy, bro. It's crazy.
Who would it be?
Any human. Maui Snake, come off the AWP, because I know he used to AWP when he played in fucking MDL. Put him on the team. I don't give a shit. Anyone. Fucking bring Yanko out of retirement and just do something.
Oh my fucking god. Okay, no.
There's real options out there, but I don't care for them because anything is better.
I don't need to live or die on the Kios hill, alright? You could cut him. Like, you could definitely cut him. I just don't think Gamer Legion move up a single placement in the RMR if you do. Like,
they could play 45 and finish in the same spot. That's how stupid and pointless Kios is.
No.
Just literally play as a 4v5.
But Isak stays, Snack stays, Akor's gone, Volt is gone. What the fuck is Volt doing? He might be winning some rounds. He's not winning enough. Like, someone else has to win these rounds.
He's not winning enough. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. I forgot how much Isak and Akor have contributed to winning on this team.
Yeah, we're cutting Akor. We're cutting Akor. MHL is coming in here. He can win some rounds. He can absolutely win some rounds.
Now with that gigantic L, let's close this out.